Hello everyone, welcome back to Reading Corner. I'm so glad that you've dropped in to join me today because I have some really great books to read to you because I love reading books to you guys. First, we have a book called Yertle, the Turtle, which is all about a turtle who wants to be king of all that he can see. But how will he get high enough to see everything? And then we have a book called Mr Daydream, and it's about a boy called Jack and how he makes friends with Mr Daydream and they go on adventures. Or do they? And then we have a book all about a dog called Boo and a little girl called Phoebe, who are both scared of different things. Phoebe's a bit scared about reading, but she gets brave because Boo needs her to be brave. So let's start with Yertle, the turtle. And I know you're going to enjoy this because it's by our good friend, Dr. Seuss. On the faraway island of Salamasond, Yertle the turtle was king of the pond, a nice little pond. It was clean, it was neat. The water was warm, there was plenty to eat. The turtles had everything turtles might need. And they were all happy, quite happy indeed. They were until Yertle, the king of them all, decided the kingdom he ruled was too small. I'm ruler, said Yertle, of all that I see, but I don't see enough. That's the trouble with me. With this stone for a throne, I look down on my pond, but I cannot look down on the places beyond. This throne that I sit on is too low down. It ought to be higher, he said with a frown. If I could sit high, how much greater I'd be. What a king! I'd be ruler of all I could see. So Yertle the Turtle King lifted his hand, and Yertle the Turtle King gave a command. He ordered 9 turtles to swim to his stone, and using these turtles, he built a new throne. He made each turtle stand on another one's back, and he piled them all up in a 9-turtle stack. And then Yertle climbed up. He sat down on the pile. What a wonderful view. He could see most a mile. Oh, mine, Yertle cried. Oh, the things I now rule. I'm king of a cow and I'm king of a mule. I'm king of a house and what's more beyond that, I'm king of a blueberry bush and a cat. I'm Yertle the turtle. Oh, marvellous me, for I am the ruler of all that I see. And all through that morning he sat there up high, saying over and over, a great king am I, until round about noon, then he heard a faint sigh. What's that? Snapped the king, and he looked down the stack, and he saw at the bottom a turtle named Mac, just a part of his throne, and this plain little turtle looked up and he said, beg your pardon, King Yertle, I've pains in my back and my shoulders and knees. How long must we stand here, your majesty, please? Silence! The king of the turtles barked back. I'm king, and you're only a turtle named Mac. You stay in your place while I sit here and rule. I'm king of a cow, and I'm king of a mule. I'm king of a house, and a bush, and a cat. But that isn't all. I'll do better than that. My throne shall be higher, his royal voice thundered. So pile up more turtles. I want about 200. Turtles, more turtles, he bellowed and brayed, and the turtles way down in the pond were afraid. They trembled, they shook, but they came, they obeyed. From all over the pond, they came swimming by dozens, whole families of turtles with uncles and cousins, and all of them stepped on the head of poor Mac. One after another, they climbed up the stack. Then Yertle the turtle was perched up so high he could see 40 miles from his throne in the sky. Hooray, shouted Yertle. I'm king of the trees. I'm king of the birds and I'm king of the bees. I'm king of the butterflies, king of the air. Ah me, what a throne, what a wonderful chair. I'm Yertle the turtle. Oh, marvellous me, for I am the ruler of all that I see. Then again from below in the great heavy stack came a groan from that plain little turtle named Mac. Your Majesty, please, I don't like to complain. But down here below we are feeling great pain. I know up on top you are seeing great sights, but down at the bottom we too should have rights. We turtles can't stand it. Our shells will all crack. Besides, we need food. We are starving, groaned Mac. You hush up your mouth, howled the mighty King Yertle. You've no right to talk to the world's highest turtle. I rule from the clouds, over land, over sea. There's nothing, no, nothing that's higher than me. But while he was shouting, he saw with surprise that the moon of the evening was starting to rise up over his head in the darkening skies. What's that? Snorted Yertle. What is that thing that dares to be higher than Yertle the king? I shall not allow it. I'll go higher still. I'll build my throne higher. I can and I will. I'll call some more turtles. I'll stack them to heaven. I need about 5,607. But as Yertle the Turtle King lifted his hand and started to order and give the command, that plain little turtle below in the stack, that plain little turtle whose name was just Mac, decided he'd taken enough, and he had, and that plain little lad got a little bit mad. And that plain little Mac did a plain little thing. He burped, and his burp shook the throne of the king. And Yertle the turtle, the king of the trees, the king of the air and the birds and the bees, the king of a house and a cow and a mule, well, that was the end of the turtle king's rule, for Yertle, the king of all Salamasond, fell off his high throne and fell plunk in the pond. And today, the great Yertle, that marvellous he, is king of the mud. That is all he can see. And the turtles, of course, all the turtles are free, as turtles and maybe all creatures should be. That was a bit of a rude turtle, wasn't it? And he got very high, but I don't think it was very fair, squashing all his other turtles. Now we're going to read a book called Mr Daydream, and it's about Mr Daydream and a boy called Jack. This is a story about Mr Daydream. You know what he looks like, don't you? Because you've seen his picture on the front of this book. It's also a story about a little boy called Jack, and you don't know what he looks like, so here's a picture of him. Now, Jack was a very good little boy. He always ate up all his lunch. He always went to bed when he was told. He always said, please and thank you. But Jack was a daydreamer. Whenever he was supposed to be thinking about something, he found himself thinking about something else, daydreaming. One day, Jack was at school. He was sitting at his desk, listening to the teacher talking about history. It was a very warm day, and Jack was glad he was sitting at the back of the classroom next to the open window. Suddenly, out of the corner of his eye, Jack saw something outside the window on the grass in front of the school. Something blue. It was a small cloud-shaped figure. Jack couldn't believe his eyes. The figure looked at Jack, looking at him, smiled and waved. Jack looked at the teacher who was still talking. Then he got up quietly, ever so quietly and slipped out of the open window. He crossed the grass to the strange-looking cloud-shaped figure. "Hello," he said. "Who are you?" "I'm Mr. Daydream," said the figure. "What's your name?" "Jack," said Jack. "I'm going off on an adventure," said Mr. Daydream to Jack. "Would you like to come with me?" "Oh, yes, please," replied Jack. "Very well then," said Mr. Daydream, and putting 2 fingers in his mouth, he let out the loudest whistle Jack had ever heard in his whole life. A huge bird swooped down out of the sky and landed beside Jack and Mr. Daydream. "Come on," said Mr. Daydream to Jack, and climbed onto the bird's back. Jack climbed on too. It was a really enormous bird, and there was plenty of room for both of them. "Hold on," said Mr. Daydream. Jack held on tight. The huge bird flapped its huge wings, and suddenly they were high up in the air. They flew faster and faster over the countryside. They flew over fields and farms and towns and hills and trees and valleys until they were far, far away from Jack's school. It was very exciting. Mr. Daydream turned to Jack. "How would you like to go to Africa?" he shouted. They were travelling so fast now, Jack just nodded his head and held on even tighter. And they flew across the sea. Suddenly, it seemed in no time at all, there below them was Africa. The bird landed in a jungle clearing, and Jack and Mr. Daydream climbed off the bird's back. It was very hot. "Come on," said Mr. Daydream to Jack. "Let's go and explore." So off they set, pushing their way through the jungle. Suddenly, in the middle of the clearing, they saw an elephant. "Hello, Mr. Daydream," trumpeted the elephant down its trunk. "Would you like a lift?" "Yes, please," replied Mr. Daydream, and the elephant reached out his trunk, picked him up, and then put him on his back. Then he reached out his trunk again, picked up Jack and put him on his back. It was very high. The elephant carried them through the jungle until they came to a river. Then he set them down on the ground, said goodbye, and went off back into the jungle. "How are we going to cross the river?" Jack asked Mr. Daydream. "Perhaps I can be of assistance," wheezed a particularly oily voice coming from the river. They looked, and there was a crocodile. "Use my back as a bridge," suggested the crocodile. It was very helpful. They were halfway across the river on the crocodile's back when the crocodile grinned a rather nasty grin, all teeth and no smile. Then flicking his enormous tail and shooting Jack and Mr. Daydream up into the air, the crocodile opened his horribly large mouth and waited. It was very frightening. "Oh dear," gasped Jack as he looked down at that enormous mouthful of teeth. "Oh dear, oh help." Mr. Daydream, upside down beside him, put 2 fingers in his mouth and let out that very large whistle of his. Suddenly, just as the crocodile's mouth was about to go snap, the big bird swooped down out of the sky. Mr. Daydream and Jack landed right on the bird's back. "Phew," said Jack. "Bother," said the crocodile. "Well, I promised you an adventure, didn't I?" grinned Mr. Daydream. "You certainly did," said Jack. "And now," said Mr. Daydream, "I think we will go to Australia." And they did. And Jack learned to throw a boomerang so that it always came back to him. "And now," said Mr. Daydream, "I think we will go to the North Pole." And they did. And Mr. Daydream fell right up to his middle in a snowdrift. "And now," said Mr. Daydream, "I think we will go to the Wild West." And they did. And Mr. Daydream found a huge 10-gallon cowboy hat. The trouble was, when he put it on, he couldn't see out. Jack, he called from underneath the hat. Jack! Jack! Suddenly, Jack realized that it wasn't Mr. Daydream saying his name. It was his teacher. And Jack wasn't in the Wild West. He was sitting at his school desk. Jack, said the teacher again, you've been daydreaming. It was true. He had. Do you know something? Daydreaming is more fun than history. Well, it can be sometimes. But I think when you're actually in school, you probably should listen to your teacher. Maybe daydream when you're in the playground or daydream when you're at home. And now for our final book about a dog called Boo and a little girl called Phoebe and how they become friends. It's called Boo Loves Books. Everyone in Miss Spinelli's class liked reading. Everyone except Phoebe. Phoebe, the book basket is that away, said Miss Spinelli. I know, Phoebe said, but I like to go the longer way. Phoebe worried when she didn't know the sound of a letter, and letters that were joined together made her freeze. When Phoebe knew a word, she stayed quiet, in case she got it wrong. A little later, Miss Spinelli made an announcement. No reading at school tomorrow. Phoebe whooped inside. Instead, we'll be reading somewhere special. Be at school early. We're taking the bus. Phoebe's tummy went flip, flop, flip, and the feeling lasted all day and then followed her home. I'll be sick tomorrow, said Phoebe. Are you sick now? Asked her mum. A little, but I'll be much worse in the morning. Tomorrow will be a good day, Phoebe. You'll see. The next day, Phoebe climbed onto the bus. She sat with her friend Harriet and stared out the window as the bus rumbled along. Then Harriet jumped up. The animal shelter, said Harriet. Phoebe frowned. This isn't a place to read books. Every place is a place to read books, said Miss Spinelli. Everyone follow the keeper, said Miss Spinelli. Phoebe squeezed Harriet's hand as they shuffled past rows of yipping, yapping dogs. Then they stopped. Miss Spinelli explained how each child would read to a dog. Phoebe was already worried about reading, and she didn't know much about dogs. What a terrible day. This is your dog, Phoebe. His name is Big Boo. Clutching a picture book, Phoebe followed Miss Spinelli inside. Phoebe stared at Big Boo. Big Boo stared at Phoebe. When he moved, Phoebe froze. I want to go home, she whispered. I'm staying right here, said Miss Spinelli. This dog is a little bit scared, but he would never hurt you. Scared, thought Phoebe, of me? Talk about the pictures, said Miss Spinelli. Your voice is all he needs. Phoebe got comfortable, then slowly opened the book. There are twinkling stars and a big red pirate ship ready to sail the seas. Phoebe watched Big Boo pick up his blanket. Pirate monkeys! Phoebe gulped as Big Boo stepped closer. They're fighting over treasure? She could see Big Boo's skin where hair had once grown, a rubbery mouth with a droop, and eyes not scary but soft. Maybe you escaped from a pirate monkey ship? Is that what happened to you, Big Boo? Phoebe kept reading. When she got stuck, Big Boo didn't mind one bit. But before Phoebe finished the book, Big Boo picked up his blanket and plodded to the back of his room. Why did he do that? Phoebe asked Miss Spinelli. He's used to people coming and going, said Miss Spinelli. Phoebe looked at Big Boo. She realised they were both scared of things. Miss Spinelli, do you have a book about dogs? Phoebe opened the book. I'm staying right here, Big Boo. You'll see. Phoebe read in her best voice and didn't care if she got words wrong. She just wanted Big Boo to come back. And he did. One day at school, not long after, Phoebe announced, "This is my new dog, Big Boo. He's the best listener in the world. He loves books about dogs, and so do I." The end. Sometimes it helps to have a good friend when we're a little bit scared, because a good friend can help us to feel a little bit more brave. And of course, Phoebe and Big Boo love reading books, which is what we love doing when we're at Reading Corner. I'm looking forward to next time when I'm going to have some more great books to read to you. But until then, I hope you have a great day, have lots of fun, have some daydreams, have some adventures, and just, read books and have fun in your imagination. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.